Photographs open doors into the past, but they also allow a look into the future. Take a look at what you're looking at. Hey, welcome to the Street Shots Photography Podcast. This is Antonio.
And this is Ward.
And Ward, welcome to episode 152.
152.
We're on our way to 200.
On our way to 200. Okay. Well, we just hit 150 the other day. So,
All right. This is 152, right? I think this has got to be. Or
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the one just end of
Yeah,
December was 150, right?
150, yeah. Right. We ended the year on 150. I constantly trying to keep these numbers in my head. I keep losing.
You have a computer, have that do it for you, and you don't have to.
I was reading someplace that we are using our computers to keep our memories, and we're losing track of our own memories, which I believe because I know that's what happens.
Absolutely.
And not, for trivial things like phone numbers, that's fine. But for other stuff, maybe it's not so fine. So anyway, how you doing?
I'm doing well.
Yeah.
Busy at work, and things are rolling along. Glad it's the weekend.
Yeah, me too. Actually, have we recorded on the weekend? I know we've recorded a lot.
Not that I can remember, no.
No. Well, we're cutting it close to the deadline. No.
I just sit here and talk, and then you're the one who's doing all the cutting.
I know, I'm doing all the work. Yeah.
Copying and pasting.
Copy and pasting, and put the music in and all that all the wonderful stuff. Come up with pictures and stuff like that.
Production.
Yeah. So we had a big snowstorm here. So if you're on the East Coast, you've heard of the, what do they call it? The bomb cyclone or whatever they want to call it. Yeah. So we got about a foot of snow. And I realize that it's probably good for recording because there's not a lot of traffic outside.
You got some
nature
sound deadening right there.
Yeah. It's like big sound cushions out my window. So
yeah. Good.
But it's been a busy week. I started a new part of my job and so what's good about that is that I have some time while I'm waiting I work now on online chat and email answering. Mm-hmm. And in between messages, I get a chance to think about stuff and scroll through.
That can be a good thing or a bad thing.
It can be a good big thing. I know. It depends on what I think about. It's like, but recently I was, so I thought, well, first of all, forget that for a second. Now we'll get to that in a second. But I realized I realized that because I'm working so much, I have not been taking a lot of pictures lately. And sort of a confession today is I was going to go out and take pictures of the snowstorm with my Fuji. The X-T2 has got 2 card slots, right? I usually have 2 128 gigabyte card slots. And so I went to go set it up to take a picture. It said no card in the camera. I was like, okay, so where are the cards? I realized I had no idea where I put the cards. And I found one of them, and I think I found the other that's in my Sony camera, which I'm using now as the webcam so I can see you. So there's another 120. So I realized I had put them in different places. And then I'm looking at the pictures, and I realized I don't think that I've taken the pictures off. Like I haven't dumped the cards onto my camera. So I'm getting out of this cycle of actually taking care of my camera and my pictures and taking things off.
Yeah, the ritual is falling away.
The ritual is falling away. And because I'm really spending a lot of time working. Now, this might change a little bit when I have to go back into the office and I can bring a camera with me. And when the weather gets a little bit better, I might get a little bit more regimented into them. But I realized that in fact, I looked at the card on my camera and the last pictures I took on that camera were, I think in November of last year, And I was thinking, have I not taken pictures with that camera in a while? As I realized I haven't. So that's a winded way of me saying I feel a little bit like a Monday morning photographer, instead of a Monday morning quarterback. Like here we're doing the podcast and talking about photography. I just haven't been shooting a lot, but I've been thinking about photography a lot.
So have I. I mean, that's what I've resorted to posting old pictures on my Instagram, and I'm having a great time, and I'm getting reactions that I didn't get the first time I posted, which is good.
You're reposting shots that you had posted before?
Reposted, yeah.
Yeah.
And they're just ones that I find, in my old Flickr stream or whatever, that 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, that that I really appreciated when I edited them, and they're coming back around.
Well, I've been thinking about that too. I've also been looking through my I have 2 Lightroom streams. I have one on the mobile, and then I have one on my desktop. And the mobile one's easier because I have it on my phone and I can look at it whenever I want and scroll through it and stuff like that. And even going through my camera roll on my phone, which has a lot of pictures that I've taken with my Fuji cameras because I would transfer them. So yeah, going back and looking at a lot of old stuff. And I think we talked about that, in the past few episodes. This sounds familiar.
Yeah.
With that in mind, as I'm sitting there waiting during work and I have time to just sort of sit around and look at, Instagram or whatever and flip through the screens. It's sort of the opposite thing. This is kind of interesting. We're talking about looking at old stuff, and I started thinking about all the new stuff. What occurred to me, and first of all, let me just, the caveat here, or the thing, the sort of I'm losing my words. I don't have words tonight.
A pre-discussion disclaimer.
Thank you. Disclaimer is I'm bringing up social media, and I'm going to bring up, Flickr and Instagram, and I'm not bashing any of this stuff. I use it. You use it. Everybody uses it, but it brings up a lot of stuff for me, especially when I'm sitting there thinking about photography, not creating new photography. That's why I feel like a Monday morning photographer a little bit, because you spend a lot more time thinking about it, and which I guess is okay, because we don't have to go take pictures all the time.
I'm fine with it.
When I talked about that at some point in the past about like not constantly having to take new pictures, new, going out and feeding this machine. And it's interesting that you're talking about going back and looking at old work and reposting stuff that you've already posted. I've done that a couple times, but I go way back in my feed but I was doing that lately. I was looking in my camera roll, and I was like, again, sometimes I look at my pictures like, I took that picture. That's me. I mean, obviously I took a picture, but anyway, to go back to what I was thinking about and what I wanted to sort of talk to you about in the show today, was this idea that, why do we need to see more and more new pictures? And so, of course, I'm going through Instagram, and before Instagram, it was Flickr. If I go far enough back, and I don't know what I was doing before social media, if there was some way that I was looking at pictures, but I worked in an industry where I was looking at photography all the time anyway.
Yeah.
When I was working at the stock agencies or whatnot. So I'm always constantly seeing new pictures, but that was my job. But why is it, this question popped in my mind. Why do I constantly need to see new pictures? And of course, when I'm looking through Instagram, it's not necessarily a curated feed, other than I curated it by choosing the people who I'm following.
Yeah.
Same thing on Flickr way back when. You pick the people you want to follow, but you have no control over what pictures are showing up in the stream, what pictures they're posting. You see everything. But, I, just like you, find myself liking pictures or bookmarking them, putting them into different categories or something like that. But how come I want to keep looking at new work? And what came to me about this was I started to, my memories started to blend with pictures that I thought were mine and that were other people's. In other words, I was looking at photography. A picture popped up in the timeline, and it was a shot of silhouette with some summer clouds, like really ripply clouds lit by sunset light. And I said, did that person steal my picture? And it wasn't the silhouette part. I mean, I thought the picture was composited, and I looked at the clouds, and because I've taken a lot of clouds out my window during sunset during the summer. And I looked at it and I was like, that looks like one of my shots. Now, of course, it's a cloud shot. So, of course, how do I know what clouds are? But it felt like
Stiglitz clouds, clouds and clouds. Yeah.
But when a picture, like you look at it, it might be something that someone else did, and you but it feels like yours.
Yeah. Well,
right?
yeah, I don't know if it's for me. It's one. It feels like another picture I've seen, and not necessarily mine. I don't know that I have that many
Okay.
pictures to
It
draw from.
doesn't,
But I go, yeah,
well, I
go ahead.
mean, yeah, I mean, in this case, I thought it was mine. I've seen pictures, often seen pictures where I thought was not a copy, but, you know, maybe it was
Yeah.
a copy. I don't know. But that therein is sort of the issue. Like I was thinking, okay, well, this picture, and I actually went through my Lightroom catalog as much
Hmm.
as I could go through. And I went through my online catalog because in the online one, you can type in clouds and it will look
Right.
up and pull out clouds.
Yeah.
And I had a couple pictures that were similar, but it wasn't, that. And I began to think that um, I'm starting to lose myself in a way. Um,
So
in
actually you had like a negative, like anxiety reaction to after having that experience of seeing clouds, and it looks like one of my cloud pictures, and then you're like, who am I? Where the like I'm starting to merge with the
Right. I'm starting to merge
with
with
these.
all the
Okay.
pictures that I'm seeing. And one of the questions I was asking myself is like, how often do I forget that an image was in my mind? That an image in my mind was not mine, but something that I scrolled through and saw earlier. Like I'm losing this sometimes.
Hmm.
And of course, this is not a fault of social media. It's not a fault of Instagram or Flickr, but there's something going on about looking at pictures. Now, you get on the subway and I see people looking through Instagram as well. And again, there's different little pockets. People want to see their
Yeah.
friends. They want to see what
Well,
influencers are
that's
posting, whatever. It
yeah.
doesn't, but I'm talking about the photography part, not the other segments. Cause believe me, I think I've said this before. Instagram is like a country. There's different
Yeah.
dialects of language
Mm-hmm.
that are spoken there, and, sometimes I look at the food pictures or sometimes I look at the, whatever,
Yeah.
but like I'm thinking about the pure photography. So, I don't know. I wanted to sort of bounce that around with you and maybe the audience, but maybe mainly with you. I mean, it's
Yeah.
you and me.
Well, I'm
talking
here,
about
so
this.
no one else can talk right now. I think I'm the only one here with the mic plugged
Yeah,
in.
yeah.
Well, that's an interesting concept. I hadn't really, I am lazy, and so I hadn't really thought in those terms. I'm more worried about what, um, hmm. Because I'm just going to go through what I think. I go through. I look for things that I like that interest me. Um, just the pure aesthetics of a particular image, or maybe it's similar. Maybe an image is similar to one I would have taken, or the same place. Like I followed that city in Mexico that I went to.
Mm-hmm.
I hashtagged it, and so I see all these pictures all the time on my stream from those visits, and those people stood in the place where that has some kind of meaning for me about they're standing in the same place I did, or
Right.
I'm reminiscing about where I was and all that kind of stuff. So there's that kind of connection. I get that kind of connection. But the sheer volume of images, and having and losing yourself in is kind of an interesting concept for me.
Well, do you feel like I mean, I also, here's a confession time. Confession time.
Okay.
So on Facebook, I'm part of a bunch of groups that have a lot of pictures that post. They're obviously people are grabbing pictures from the internet, so I'm sure it's copyright,
Yeah,
violations
hell.
left and right. But talking about copyright and internet, just let's not bother.
Yeah.
So people are posting up. I won't name the groups, but there's often like a lot of strange pictures, movie stills, retro stills, like whatever.
Okay.
And I collect those pictures. I this is a confession, but I put them on my phone because I like looking at them, and it's sort of because it's similar to what we would do on Instagram, right? By liking them, you're able to go back and look at them, right? So I'll collect the pictures and I'll put them in a gallery that's called retro, or a gallery that's called memes, right? I'll copy this stuff, and I keep getting these pictures. I keep downloading them. I don't always look back at them. Sometimes I do if I want to find something like a picture from the Munsters or Star Trek or something like that.
Okay.
I posted. But I feel this, well, it's a way of like, when you're talking about what you're saying about what you like and the hashtags that you follow. And I'm doing this sort of the same thing on these Facebook groups and even on Instagram by collecting pictures. Like when does it stop? How many pictures can we collect? How many pictures can we keep looking at? Why do we need keep grabbing new pictures? What is it about you hashtagging these things so that a new picture pops up? Like, why do you need to keep seeing these things?
Well, for me, in the case of the Mexico pictures, because I'm convinced I'm going to go back there and can continue that project. And I want to keep fresh and keep thinking about it. So that's why I do that.
Doesn't that spoil it a little bit though? I mean, like,
no, because, and it's in my essay, in the Unusual Collective.
Okay.
I would go and try and take pictures that only I would take. And even if they're terrible, that's fine. I'm not taking shallow
that's fair enough.
travel pictures. And so I want to walk that fine line, like those photographers that say, make it hard, right? Don't just take the easy picture. And so that's what I'm trying to do make it difficult, not make it difficult, find my own way, that narrow path that only I can walk.
Okay.
So, and that's one case.
That's very specific.
That's very specific.
That makes sense.
But that's the only way. I'm trying to think of when I'm less engaged. I'm going through Instagram.
Okay.
And your point about things kind of melding together. I don't know. I don't know that I feel that. I think. I guess comes a time when maybe it has to do with if you're not really curating with care, that's just a waste of time going through the pictures. But I don't believe I try not to do that. I go through pictures and accounts that interest me.
Mm-hmm.
And they're in different disciplines. I don't categorize them like you do, but all my bookmark pictures and some videos in Instagram are personal interest, like sort of like your weird, I forgot what you call them, retro pictures and so on.
Right. Yeah.
Their collection. And the thing about Instagram, because it doesn't take up any physical space, you just say, oh, here's another one I'm just going to set aside. I think there's a dopamine hit that happens there. Wow, this is cool. Do I want to, you make the subconscious decision. Do I want to keep this and bookmark it so I can go back and see it again? And I go back through my bookmarks and I do some culling. I do some culling, whatever. So there's that. I tend to think of it as kind of a positive experience. I don't know that I've really found myself kind of losing something in that. Now the negative part is the time suck, right? Like, well,
that's so obvious. Yeah.
That's,
but there's times when you're like I said, like you're waiting for a bus, you're sitting around, then it's not a time suck because it's occupying some time. No. Right. There are the times when you're like, I'm going to sit down in my on my lounge chair when I could be doing something like cleaning up my office, and instead I'm scrolling through Instagram or whatever.
That's my life.
That's it.
Pretty much.
That is true.
That's the downside. That's the downside for me.
Yeah. But yes, there's the dopamine hit, which may account for some of this. Let's keep looking and looking and looking and looking and looking. But even, let's go back to, both of ours, mainly, let's say more you, about like buying photo books, right?
Well, yeah.
And then I started to buy them, right? And it's seeing new pictures, and it's sort of a different version of the same thing.
But it has the added benefit of materialism.
Well, yes, but it takes up shelf space, and
that's right.
And it's something to hold, and everything looks different.
Yes.
And again, I'm not really trying to put a negative spin on this. I'm not trying to say that absorbing pictures and
no,
looking at
but
lots
you're
of
saying
imagery
about getting lost. You had an anxious reaction.
But yes, but that's what happens. I'm wondering if it happens to anybody else. So you're saying it doesn't.
Oh, I'm sure it does. I think. Well, no, I'm not saying it wouldn't happen to me. I just haven't really experienced that yet.
So here's what was coming up for me too. Recently, I read a sci-fi book where an alien entity wanted to create a hive mind out of all the humans in the solar system.
This is not the Borg or whatever. I'm not
going to say what. But
okay.
it's not the Borg.
Okay. They're all about the hive mind.
Right. But what was happening in the book, the characters were beginning to have flashbacks of other people's memories. They were having them live. So a character would suddenly, something would happen and suddenly they would start hearing other people's voices in their head, people whose consciousness and memories were starting to blend with theirs. And each of the characters in the story were beginning to lose their individuality because they began to have other people's memories. And so I guess what I've started, and this tied in very well with this idea with, like, I start to think now, of course, if I see a picture of the Grand Canyon or someplace I haven't been, I realize that's not my picture and it's not my memory. And so I'm aware of that, but there's sometimes like that shot of the clouds, there's a fine line where there's a crossover, where there might be imagery that I might have taken, or maybe it looks like a picture that a friend took. And I found myself, now that I'm thinking about this, I know I found myself one time saving a picture or screenshotting a shot on Instagram and going checking my friend's website to see, like, I was thinking the picture must have been stolen. And it wasn't even close. It was just, it was this blending of memories. And maybe this is just me because,
no, I don't. I think it could be representative of a lot of people. I'm often accused of being peculiar, so that's not, I wouldn't. Me peculiar? How's that possible?
Or me peculiar? I was like,
so no, I get it. I think it's something. I think there's a philosophical thing you're touching on, which is very interesting, for good and for bad. We were talking about I think there was two shows ago, or was it the last show where we were talking about the huge body of work, right? And this is kind of related. There's just what already exists, and then there's the new fire hose that we're all subjecting ourselves to. I think that I think you can lose yourself in it. Maybe there's a lesson, a lesson about something. I don't know exactly what. Maybe we can work on that.
I mean, I don't know if necessarily it's the, stopping, and again, there's a bit of an addiction thing. We just said,
Oh, absolutely. Well, there's, yeah.
But I mean, there's a lot of things to be addicted to. I mean, we could sit there and watch TV all day. We don't do that.
No,
mainly because it's probably not practical, but we can, look at pictures on Instagram or Flickr or whatever we're doing, or even following our friends on Facebook. And again, this idea of scrolling and whatnot.
Well, I think part of it is the effort to go there is very little, right?
Okay.
To get a photo book, you got to go over to the bookshelf and decide which one you want to go through, and then go through it. And it's
or
different.
Carry it with
Instagram.
You
Instagram is an instant hit, right?
Right.
You can go through and spend 2 minutes or whatever, or scroll down. I know there was a time before I was following 4,000 people where I would try to get to the bottom, and maybe this is an interesting, try to get to where I left off on Instagram.
Okay. Where we left off, my
last viewing session. How many pictures are there? Like, that's not a healthy activity. just go through and
why would you do that? Just as a
I don't know. I think it was there was a kind of retentive thing. I got to see all the pictures. Okay, now I'm fine with that.
Okay, that's actually a perfect thing. Why?
But I got over it, and I don't know why.
Okay, but
just because it was overwhelming. Well, not overwhelming.
Well, I'm asking you to think about it a little bit, because you're saying you don't know why.
But you got me going now.
Why did you? I mean, yes, there's a challenge. I can get that part. The challenge of, like, okay, I've gone this far, right?
Yeah.
You've scrolled this far. Let's see how much farther we can scroll.
Yeah.
But there must be another. It can't just be challenging yourself to find the other rule. Like, you're going and looking at pictures, and what is it that you gained by doing that? And
I think in that unhealthy state, I will raise my hand and say that was not a good thing to do. I think just the completest task of making sure I had everything covered, I betcha. And it was not in those moments, it was not about the photographs. It was just
well, it's true.
I'm looking for the photograph. I'm looking through the photographs to see if it's the one that I recognize.
Okay.
From this morning when I did it or whatever.
So how is this helping us become better photographers?
Well, in that case, it
not
wasn't, but now no, I think it is because
how?
Well, it sounds like a psychologist. The mindfulness. It's about the mindfulness. You
the go mindfulness
of if you're going to use Instagram. Let's get preachy and stupid. I'm going off on a tangent.
Give me Instagram.
Please,
I need Instagram.
We sit cross-legged. We have the fire going, and you hold the truth stick, and it's your turn to talk.
The truth stick. Here, I'm going to hand you the truth phone. Here's
the truth phone. Yes, I hold the truth phone. To go through it, and like I was saying in the last show or the one before about going through and seeing how does this picture. Do I just love this picture for what it is and the aesthetic part? Is it referential or derivative of another artist or something that I would do or something that I wouldn't do? I said something in that show too about, if I don't like a particular account on Instagram, that I would unfollow it. I didn't really mean to say it would. I was looking for images that I thought were pleasing. I just thought that person had images that were interesting to me that help feed my creativity. And so Instagram is a tool for me to try to think. I rationalize to myself that it's something that helps with my creativity.
So
I go through.
Sorry, I was going to say, but I'm sorry to interrupt, but I was going to say, how much imagery is needed to feed your creativity?
However much I can stand. Like I'll go through and I go, okay, I get it. I'm like, okay, I'm not engaging with this. I'm not looking at it. I'm not looking at it with any use anymore. And then I'll stop, and then something will happen. Or sometimes I go on. Sometimes you go in and you think you put this great picture up, and you're just fishing for how many likes did I really get? I mean, we all say we don't do that, but we do. We go, oh, I got 4 likes. Oh, when that guy, there's a particular guy, when he gives me a like, I know that, because he's an artist guy that I know. And if I get a like from him, it's all good. And it goes to what we were talking about too, about the small audience, right? It tends to be the same people who like my images. I'm not any kind of, big global superstar. So I get a certain number and a certain number of views. Impressions or whatever the internet term is for that. So I use it for that. I look at the metrics and that sort of thing. But
again,
the new work interests me because there is newness in it. It's not, you could say, some street picture and you go, oh, it's got a Dutch angle. It's, Winogrand much. You go through someone's clearly influenced by this photographer or that photographer, and you can mock them, but they're trying to emulate, and I did too. Like I had my tilted horizons too. So I just, it's rich for me to go through there. And I'm really trying not to get lost in it.
Yeah, I get the feeling for me, I'm beginning to get lost.
Well, this is cool. Well, not cool, but it's very interesting.
It's. I mean, again, because for me, what's going on now is, and I just said this at the beginning of the show, this Monday morning quarterback kind of thing. But I don't feel like I'm not producing a lot of new work, and I'm actually okay with that. I mean, I don't need to go out and take pictures every day.
Yeah.
I do need to sort of, what I was saying at the beginning, take care of my photography a little bit better, like misplacing cards and not knowing whether I downloaded stuff is not, not the practice that I tell other people to do. It's like, take care of your pictures, back everything up, very kind of insane about that. And for me not to take care of that kind of stuff is a little strange. But I'll cut myself a break there. Yeah. So I'm not beating myself up about that. And yet, I do feel like, constantly looking at other people's work, something's going on. And when I say getting lost in it, and again, hive mind, I'm trying not to be too dramatic about this. It's something about that sci-fi
It
story.
did twig that science fiction story twigged something in you.
Yeah, it did. And again, this like idea of like, is that my picture? Like if I could take all the names off of pictures and, I don't know, put tons of black and white shots of New York up, or street shots, people sitting around like, on a subway or something like that. And it's like, is that mine? Did I take that? Because, I'm looking at sometimes a library of, I don't know, what did I've been shooting? My Lightroom library is probably close to 900,000 shots. The one that I've got where I'm storing everything. But even at like 20 or 30,000, I start looking back at those. Actually, it's funny because I start looking back at my old pictures. This is what's strange. Here we go. When I look back at shots I might have taken 5 or 8 years ago or something like that, whenever I started really getting serious in street photography, I kind of look at the shot and I almost don't recognize it. And I'm wondering about that. That's why I say I was looking back at stuff like, I shot this, like, and then I go, oh yeah, I did. But I'm beginning, and maybe something else is happening in my brain. But I don't think so. I think I'm pretty, together up in the brain department. Well, for some things, not everything. So to start looking at a shot and start saying like, between the time I shot that picture and now, how many pictures have gone through my memory? Some of them being mine, certainly not as many, right? I'm not taking as many pictures or creating as many keepers, quote unquote, as I'm seeing on Instagram, right? The ratio is got to be a lot different there. Like I might put one picture up today, but I'll look through, like you were saying with your timeline thing, you might look through and you might see, how many would you go through if you actually sat there and you counted until you got to your when you knew you were seeing the same pictures over and over again? How many pictures?
Well, more than 50, less than 200. Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. So the ratio of you putting up a picture to the amount of pictures that you're seeing, let's just for the ballpark play that,
Yeah, but that's the nature of it, right? You follow everyone, and
sure,
everyone posts up,
right,
posts what they can.
This is what you're doing to yourself, right? So you're creating one picture and you're deciding to look at hundreds of other people's pictures. That's right. It's not hundreds of one person's picture. It's 200
all
people.
The people
maybe.
I follow. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So something strange about that for me. I'm noticing, like for myself, and even thinking about, okay, well, that picture I took 5 years ago on the subway. Yeah, I remember that. Does it feel like me? Oh yeah, I don't know. I can't remember exactly. Oh yes, it's me. But I'm beginning to have that creep in a little bit. Now, again, not to be judgmental about it. Because I don't want to. I don't want to bash anything. And I don't want to say stop doing this, but I want to be aware. You talk about being mindful, right? This idea of being mindful about stuff that we're so much on automatic, right? Okay, so I got a minute or two. I'm going to open up Instagram and I'm going to flip through 50 pictures. I'm going to tag a few, and then I'm going to go back to my other thing. Is that a mindful way of dealing with seeing new photography, and how does it affect you? So I'm not necessarily looking for anybody to answer these questions. I just want to put the questions out there as it's something that we should pay attention to.
No, I think we should.
Why?
I think we should. Well, because of the time invested. I mean,
okay.
We and that's one of the things about social media. There's the cost benefit of it. I want to think that it helps my creativity. Maybe I'm BSing myself there.
Maybe I don't know.
It's just there's a certain component of it that is just simply addiction. I go through it, and most of the things just pass under my thumb, and I don't give it a second thought. Or sometimes I discover some floral macro picture that's unbelievable that I have to bookmark. With things that grab you. But you're making me think about it, because
how about this?
I'm in my own head all the time. I don't know that what I'm doing is I say that I'm mindful, but maybe only certain times when it serves me.
Well, yeah. How about this? I follow, or I know a couple of photographers. I'm not going to mention any names. Who
Joe
post
and Bob,
Joe and Bob. Bill and Frank and Mary.
Yeah.
They post pictures on social media, right? So Facebook or Instagram or both. And guess what? But they don't look at Instagram or Facebook. They'll post the pictures there, but they won't go and look at other people's pictures.
Yep, that's,
and so,
that's a different way. I mean, it's like people complain about, I take black and white pictures. Why don't you shoot in color? I said, well, they just tell Van Gogh he should have why doesn't he just do watercolor?
Well, yeah.
What do you, it's just that's the way those people want to express themselves. And that's
okay.
Fine. That's fine. And maybe they don't want the contamination of viewing other people's pictures.
So you just said the word, the
there
C
you
word.
Go. Yes, the C word.
The contamination.
I'm fine with the contamination. I shower every day. I'm all good.
I've been contaminated. So is it contaminating? Is it?
Well, some people think it is. Yes, I think that's a definite point of view to take.
I mean,
I think we need to be aware if you're susceptible to it. Maybe I'm long gone. Maybe with all this viewing that.
How can we be susceptible? I mean, how can we know that? How can I know?
Because your pictures, you're trying to emulate some of what you see, or everything you see, because
who's
you don't
tell
have.
Me that? I'm certainly not going to. Well,
no,
myself.
You're not. No,
and people are gonna see my pictures. Oh, well, I shoot silhouettes against very colorful walls, and something like that, and that looks like.
By the way, I love those kind of pictures, and
so do I, which is why I tag them.
There's a guy in Italy, in Brano, Italy, man. Oh, he takes the same kind of pictures all the time, and they're almost always great. They remind me a little bit of Sandra Adorno's pictures.
Okay,
they're just really, really good.
All right.
So where are we going with this? I'm sorry.
I don't know. Again, it's all about opening up the question. I could be going nowhere with this, but it really made me think about this, especially for myself. I mean, it's obviously not affecting you as much as it is affecting me. But
maybe it is. I'm just not aware of it. I'm fine. I'm a bit of a loner. I spend a lot of time in my own head. I mean, I can learn from this. I can learn from the experiences of others. I would like to think, and it's something to think about. Maybe I should rethink how I use Instagram.
And what would that look like? Then again,
well, it'd be culling a lot of, probably a lot of accounts that either I don't see images for, or images that don't, that are sort of off on a tangent, that are more away from whatever kind of pictures that I would think I would take. Spending less time on Instagram, not that there's anything wrong with that.
Well, and let's dovetail this a little bit into our collective, right? Where we were talking about this with Bart the other week on his.
It was a great talk, by the way. Oh man,
it was a lot of fun talking about that.
Yeah.
So, as we mentioned, and I'll put a link in the show notes to that episode with Bart, but one of the things I think I remember mentioning was that it's a little bit of the internet. How do I say this? We're using the internet to be outside of the internet, right?
Right.
So we're in this collective so that we can shut off all the noise from the rest of the world. We can be within our little group, and we're not very demanding of each other. I don't know if we talked about this, but I'm not getting on the horn with you and saying, "We're all your new pictures." How come I'm not seeing more and more pictures? And frankly, I would like to see, actually I would like to use our group more. We haven't been using it a lot. And again, we're probably all just circling our wagons for our own reasons, but we're a little quiet and sort of sharing the work. I know Dave puts a lot of pictures up when he gets into the mood. I know I haven't, but why are we not on each other's case to, hey, Ward, where are all those new pictures that you were talking about? Why are you posting them on Instagram and not sharing with us? We don't do that. We don't have that demand.
Well, first of all, there are no new pictures for either of us, so that answers the first question.
That's true. That's true.
And
But
yeah,
well, again, we're not. I mean, we sort of made that purposeful. That we're not there to grind each other and constantly push. We do talk about it and we do help each other. But it certainly isn't a world like Instagram or the rest of the internet, which we're trying to move away from by having
beast you're feeding. Yeah,
right. And so anyway, there's something that comes up about that. Like we have our insatiable need for new pictures. Okay, so here we go. Here's our insatiable need of new pictures from the world of Flickr and Instagram and photo books, and yet we have our own little photo group that was designed to be a place where we're going to be talking about photography, and yet we're not, constantly looking at new pictures there, or our own new pictures, and we're okay with that. Yeah.
And we rejoice when one of us does post something, and so, oh my gosh, someone finally posted something.
Yeah. All right. And prior to this, well, look, we're both old enough where we can step back into time a little bit and think about what life was like prior to sitting in front of a phone or a computer scrolling through. Actually, prior to phones, right? Before we had 2007, we were probably not looking at photographs on our Trio or whatever the hell little device we had, or
even before that. I'm thinking before that, when we were teenagers in our dark rooms and so on.
Right. But let's go back prior to phones, just
Okay.
shy of 2007, 2006, when
Okay, yeah.
smartphones were taking over. You were sitting on your computer, perhaps, right, scrolling through Flickr. We were doing it, on a website, scrolling through, right?
Yeah.
You did that and put, what was it in Flickr? Is it stars on Flickr?
Yeah, stars.
Stars, right. So you're starring things. Okay, so we're doing it there. Maybe not as often because it's a little bit more deliberate. You have to sit in front of a computer. You got to scroll. But it was there.
But you got a huge sense from the Explorer view in Flickr that it was a huge volume of pictures you were going to look through if you were going to look
right.
through
It's true.
Explorer.
Right. And 500 pixels too. That was another one. That
500
was
PX, yeah, that was a big one.
prior to I think that was a
I was never on 500 PX, so I don't know.
I was too, and I had talked about this probably a zillion years ago on the show. But the echo chamber was very big on 500 pixels because again there was that, this was the social thing, like, this kind of picture gets this many people to give me this many heart. I think that they had hearts on 500 pixels. So you get that many hearts. And so all of a sudden everybody's posting up, shots of waterfalls with smooth, everything like wallpaper there. And I'm sorry to say that, but, I submitted stuff there too, as well. And I'm looking at it like, why is that picture? But I'm constantly looking at more pictures. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Get rid of that. All right. Okay. Go further back. So we're in, 2001, 1999. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is that a good time to think about
Well,
this?
for me, that was hiatus time, right?
Okay. From photography?
From photography, yeah.
Yeah. Well, but sure.
But still,
what
would I have done? I mean, I did have a camera and did take some pictures.
Right. And the internet wasn't really great for downloading pictures or at least having an endless scroll. So there was, where were we seeing our pictures? I recall in the late, I had a photo studio with a couple of friends in the meatpacking district in New York. And from 97 to I think 2002, when they started raising the rent. Anyway, so I'm sitting in the studio there and maybe I'm doing research for stock photography, looking at pictures that sell or something like that. So I'm doing some kind of thing to like look at pictures and where are the gaps in the files and stuff like that. But I'm not doing a lot of like insatiable picture absorbing, right?
No.
So what happened? Why is it, I was, working photographer back then, creating new pictures. So what happened? Why is it now that we have to and again, let's skip the dopamine hits and stuff like that. Why is it for someone like us, we were good back then, right? And you said you were on a hiatus.
We didn't have access to these tools that are designed by engineers who...
We didn't know what we were missing.
No, didn't know what we were missing. These tools and applications were engineered to demand attention from us. They were,
Hmm.
and that's why they're addictive. They're engineered that way. But I would like to go back too, because I wanted to bring up the whole teenager thing. I went through magazines and sort of like in the old days when you have the big LP records and you would, for hours, you would stare at the cover art, right? And I know you're a big album cover art dude,
And
right?
can we bookmark that for an episode?
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so
I'm not as well versed as
well, we
you.
need to get a couple of other people on who might be.
All
But
right.
anyway, go ahead.
I'll
Sorry,
just
go
go,
ahead.
yeah, I remember a few songs from that album. But anyway, we used to like stare at it and try to find symbolism in the images from the lyrics and those things that you, like I tell my son, there's things you got to crawl up into, when you're younger or whatever,
Mhm.
to get that feeling. This is your favorite band or whatever. So there was that. But so I had magazines, I had my photo magazines, and so my Vogue Italias or whatever, and I would just go through and you'd stare at all these images just to try and absorb why you like it, or and in that way. But you look for, in my mind, I was thinking, it was hours of looking at this stuff, and then you'd look at your own work, and I would look at my own content because I had a ring binder with all my contact sheets, and
Mhm.
I just go through there and to see if there's something, the precursor, right, to what, going through these contact sheets and seeing, is there something I can print here? I mean, did I
Mhm.
miss something? Did I miss
Mhm.
something?
Okay.
And it's like a precursor to going through Instagram or going through my old Flickr stream. It's similar to going through my Flickr stream and deciding, well, what can I move from, take
But when you're
away from
looking
my
at your
Flickr?
own work, it's your work, right? And so
Yes.
you're like, oh yeah, I remember when I shot that. Let's say, for instance, not
Yeah.
like what I was just talking about before with looking at pictures, but this is in a different segment of the world. Like back in the days when we were shooting slides and negatives, you had a pretty good idea that, oh, I remember where I was on this bridge and I remember shooting this, or I shot that with
Yeah.
Scala. Like I even remember, like I shot that with Scala with my 85 millimeter tilt shift lens,
Mm-hmm.
that's my own stuff. I can, back then
Yeah.
I can remember it. Maybe now I'm not having such a good
Okay.
memory of what I shot, maybe because I'm also so busy. I'm part of this, got sucked up into it as well, constantly creating new pictures. I remember when I was starting to shoot street photography, it's like, okay, certainly I would carry my camera around with me on the subway to work and on the way back, and I would constantly shoot pictures, shoot. And again, I was like this, okay, well, new. The fire hose we
Yeah.
talked about before, this insatiable
But also,
appetite.
street, I think we understand that the hit rate is low,
Well,
right?
yes,
And that's a
that's
reason to
true.
do a lot of shooting, not just because you're going to have a lot of files anyway. Um,
Yes, yeah,
so it's not really
it's a good
new.
point.
It's
Good point.
you're trying to do the find,
Right,
trying to get that. Oh, I think I'm lined up, and you weren't.
right. Yeah,
That guy standing in the wrong place, so on and so on.
yeah,
So that's
yeah.
a special
Makes
case.
sense.
Anyway,
Yeah,
never mind.
right,
I,
and it's a good point. I remember it's a very specialized
and it's
type of
freaking hard, and
photography.
I love it.
Yeah. But again, I think it's different to like look back at your own pictures. And I talked about this many times on shows, probably when blew in the face about like, yeah, I have got, close to 1 million files. Let's say half of those are maybe I've got a lot of duplicates and stuff like that,
Yeah.
JPEGs and RAW or whatever. But a significant amount of imagery that would probably take me, if I actually sat there and scrolled, it would take me a very long time to go through them and see that stuff. And so it's, one thing to look back at my old stuff, memories that I shot this then or was doing whatever. But again, and I don't want to beat this any more than I need to, but this constant daily, again, a
Several
magazine
times a
too.
day.
So just to be fair, like when we had magazines, they came out once a month or once every 6 months,
Yes.
depending on the kind of magazine. And of course you waited the entire month and then you'd go through the magazine in 2 seconds because you'd be like, oh, I got to read you're flipping through the pages and you're like, oh, okay. Great. And you might tear out a few and put them in a binder or something like that, stuff in your collection. And then you were done, and you had another 29 days or whatever until the next the next magazine came out from part of your subscription or whatever. And maybe you could get maybe you had 5 different magazines, right? But there was a time that it stopped, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. You would sit, you'd read it, stop, you put it down.
Yeah.
You might pick it up again once or twice, but that was it.
But there were ones that were kind of classic that you set aside. And
that's fine. Sure. Like the books that we have on our shelves. Great. Yeah. That's fine. Yeah. But today, daily, we're doing things. Now, again, people who are growing up now, this is what they know, right? And that's, again, not a judgment call, but you and me, we've crossed over these time periods, and I want to understand this a little bit. And we're not probably going to answer this question. I mean, this is a throwing out into the world. Maybe we can come back to this at a later point, or something will oh, I understand this, but something's different today that keeps us from scrolling through stuff. We each are having a different experience with it. I'm having experience a little bit sometimes where I'm starting to think I'm losing myself, also fogging my memories of stuff that I've shot in the past or something like that. And again, maybe this has something to do with me getting older. I'm not going to discount any of this kind of stuff. It's
me neither. You got me thinking about, what I think I'm doing with, with Instagram, and what I really am doing, and what others see me do with it.
Right.
I think it's definitely worth exploring.
The social media companies, they have a reason for this. They're not giving us, and again, don't want to sound like I'm judging. so forgive me if I did, but they have a reason to do this, right? They're out for money. They're doing whatever they want to do. That's their thing. We're taking in it. Each of us has a different thing that we take from it, right? Like I said, it's a country with different dialects, and it's nice to go and sample the different, or let's say different food styles or something like that. It's nice to sample those. But they have their reasons. We have our reasons. I think it's easier for me to understand their reasons. Their reasons are pretty straightforward, and nothing to help society really. But what is my reason for wanting to go through and pull and look and view and lose myself? I mean, I'm doing this to myself, right? If this is the result, and I'm still doing it. I mean, okay, so I noticed that I'm losing my memory on my own pictures, and yet I still pick up the phone and I still look through this. And maybe there's an addiction part of it too, which is probably high up on the scale there. But and maybe this is the beginning of trying to understand what else is going in to that desire. What is it what kind of dopamine hits am I getting from looking at new work? What are you getting every time you look at a new picture? What gets tickled? And what do you do with it after it's done? Is it there and gone, or do you store it away?
Well, no, in the case of the pictures I really like, I bookmarked them to go through them later.
Right. And you may do that. You may go through them later. I don't all the time do that. I think I've even admitted that. And I said I should go through my stuff, but I haven't. Because, frankly, in the world, there's a lot more important things for me to do than to go through all my little bookmarked pictures that I've done for the past, I don't know how many years I've been on social media. Even on Flickr, I've got a whole selection there, which I haven't even, gone back to look at. So, anyway, we probably have drowned this.
Well, I'll make one suggestion.
Sure.
Okay, if we're concerned about these kind of states that we're being put in by using, if we're talking about Instagram, what if we go on a moratorium, a week of not using it, and see what do we see changes in our behavior, or you don't have to go through actually deleting Instagram, maybe deleting the app on your phone for a while. And first of all, seeing if you could survive that, if you don't go through some kind of physical withdrawal. And if so, what are you finding now? If you're still keeping up with photography, just not doing the Instagram thing, what does that do?
Is it necessary to keep up with photography?
Well, I mean, to keep shooting, I guess is what I mean.
Well, no, there's the shooting part. Sure, I can take pictures, but is it necessary for me to keep looking at new pictures? Well,
no, that's the experiment is not doing that.
Right, exactly. So what would happen if we stopped looking at new pictures? Yeah. And again, I'm a little wary of the cold turkey kind of thing, because, and this is just me. This is definitely a judgmental thing. Think about if I could come up with a way to sort of answer the question without going cold turkey, if I can have enough self-knowledge to say, okay, well, this is what I'm doing while I'm doing this, and then say, okay, well, I can, look at a new picture here and there, or find out what my friend is doing, and look at, go to their website or their profile and look at the pictures that they just did. Like, I'll go to your website and look at I do that sometimes. Like, I realize that's what happens a lot. I miss your pictures because I'm looking at so much other crap. Right. And then I have to go back, and all of a sudden your picture comes out, like, shoot, I haven't seen your shot in a while. And I go back to your timeline, your profile, and look at the pictures that you shot. I was like, oh, I haven't seen this, and I haven't seen this, but that the cold turkey part and would be for me, like, I would be more of like, how can I be more mindful of what I'm doing, right, and then not get rid of Instagram?
Well, no, but I would say, I mean, it's interesting. You sort of have a resistance to going cold turkey here. What if it's just for a couple of days? What would change? Okay. I mean, maybe that would help direct us into what is it that we need to do to be more mindful if we're not in Instagram. Like,
now it's easy to
two different states.
Well, true,
different
yeah.
States,
and it's kind of easy to do that. Like, if we're working, right? I can easily, realize I could just put myself into my job but how did, and say, okay, well, I'm not going to look at my phone, or I'm going to look at, Twitter or something like that, and look at news stories or something like that. And that's maybe part of the same thing. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, just Instagram. I mean, where I spend most of my time, I look at my iPhone statistics, and most of my hours are in Instagram by far.
Oh, you're talking about like looking, because you can look at the, how much time you spend in an app. I'm really curious about that. Where is that? I forget. It's in settings someplace, right? Yeah. Screen time, right?
I think it's called screen time. Yeah. Search for screen time on your phone.
Yeah, let's see if it shows the app. I'm not going to spend too much time doing this. Yeah, downtime, app limits. I can set app limits. All right, well, forget it. Let's spend time looking at that. Okay, an interesting idea. I can see trying that. I'm not going to commit to it, but I'll give it serious consideration.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, now I think
cool.
I think I've talked longer about this than I was expecting to. Maybe I had a lot on my mind about this.
Well, and like usual, it takes me a while to warm up, and now I'm like doubting myself. Like, I'm a Mr. I know everything, and then by the end, I'm like, maybe not so much.
Again, it was all just to open up this question that popped into my mind, and I don't think Instagram or any of these social medias are trying to turn us into a hive mind. I think that's just what's happened to me. It's like losing myself.
Who you're hiving with, I don't know.
I don't know. That's the thing. Well, becoming more aware of that. So anyway, all right. We've done this topic a good slapping around, I think.
All right.
Fantastic. So that being said, where can we find you on the internets?
I am, if we're speaking of Instagram, I'm Ward Rosin Fine Art, WARDROSIN Fine Art. I'm Ward Rosin Photography on Facebook. I'm also Ward Rosin Photo on Twitter. We don't talk about that, but Twitter I use a fair amount. And my website, my sad website where I have sold a few fine prints is rosin.ca, and I have this little business called Ornis Photo where I sell Asian sourced lens adapters and Seven Artisans lenses.
That's our unofficial
sponsor. Yes.
It's gonna be, the day I don't say that is going to be the day I'm going to be a pod person. So, just remember that. And where can I be found? On the IG, I'm at AM Rosario. I'm at AM Rosario everywhere, and my website is AM Rosario. I'm at AM Rosario on all the other things. Anyway, Rosario Photo on Facebook for some of us who are on Facebook. On AOL. No, sorry.
On AOL.
AOL. But, we have our Street Shots podcast IG account, which is Street Shots Podcast. So that's where I post. So far, I've just been posting the new show listings there. But please follow us there. See what we
And where are you on CompuServe? I
on CompuServe. Oh my God, CompuServe. And Jeannie, do you remember Jeannie?
Jeannie, I
Genie. Oh, okay. Now, so we're gonna have to end this because these guys, the people who are listening, they don't want to hear us talk about this old stuff. We'll talk about it offline. But anyway, Ward, thanks for hanging out with me tonight and helping me.
No problem.
Figure this out. I wish I had another beer with me, but
I have got a few right behind me in the fridge.
Fantastic.
One for you.
All right. So thanks everybody for hanging in with us, and we will hopefully see you in a couple of weeks. So, Ward, good talking to you, and have a good night.
Yeah. Good night, man. See ya.
Bye.